No author can afford to repeat verbatim, word for word, large chunks of text. If an author does that, he would lose the reader's interest. His book would lose energy and momentum. And simply put, a book that repeats word for word too often would be boring. So why would Parshat Vayekhal include large chunks of text that are virtually word for word the same text found in Parshat Truma? In Parshat Vayekhal, we have the discussion of the construction of the Mishkan, the construction of the sanctuary, which the Jews carried with them throughout the desert. And this particular parsha, when talking about the construction, literally uses the same words as included in the command to construct the Mishkan. And so we have to ask the very same question. Why would the Torah violate the cardinal sin of authorship? Never repeat chunks of text word for word. And I think the answer is quite simple, and it's an answer that actually I'm inspired by some of the explanations of the Ramban. And the answer is this: something you love is never boring. When you truly love something, you're willing to read it over and over again, word for word. If you get a letter of acceptance from Harvard, you're willing to look at it and read it more than once, and it never gets boring. You even look back at it years later and look at it fondly. And really the lesson of the Torah in this week's Torah reading is something as precious as the construction of the sanctuary. Even if you have to read it again, word for word, that is never boring. And that is a powerful and profound message that we all have to contemplate in our own lives. We live in a world where nothing can ever be boring. Nothing can ever be repeated. We live in a world where everything is sliced up into the shortest periods of time. Our attention span is no longer than 22 minutes because that is the general length of a TV show on television. And with Twitter, with email, with the music video, everything has to be moving constantly. And we never even get the chance to savor for a moment something we've actually seen. And I think this lesson, that something you love is never boring, is a powerful lesson that we need to integrate in our own lives. When it comes to dealing with our own families, with our spouses, with our children, with our parents, we have to understand that something we love is never boring. And at sitting down at dinner in the evening, we hear some of the same stories over and over again. That's okay. In fact, that's really important, because something we love is never boring. And the big lesson of this week's Torah reading is that if the sanctuary is something you care about, and indeed it's something we do care about, then we're willing to read the text word for word verbatim over again, because something you love is never boring. And that's something we have to take into our own lives.